The last time I spoke to my father, I didn't know it would be the last. If I had known, maybe I would have chosen different words. Maybe I would have stayed a little longer. Maybe I wouldn't have walked away so easily. But at that time, I was young, and I was sure I was right. We were standing in the middle of our small living room. The air felt heavy, like something had been building for years and finally decided to break. "You never listen," I said. My voice was louder than I expected. My father didn't shout back. He never did. He just stood there, looking at me with that same quiet expression I had seen my whole life. "I'm trying to help you," he said. That sentence, I had heard it too many times. Helping me meant choosing my path. Helping me meant telling me what to do. Helping me meant becoming someone I didn't want to be. "I don't need your help," I replied. That was the moment. The moment everything changed. His face didn't show anger. It showed something worse. Disappointment. "You'll understand one day," he said softly. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't believe him. "I won't," I said. And then I left. No dramatic goodbye, no turning back. Just a door closing behind me. At first, it felt like freedom. I told myself I was finally living my own life. No more rules, no more expectations. I worked hard, built my own path, made my own decisions. And slowly, I stopped thinking about home. At least, that's what I thought. In the beginning, he called. Once a week, then once a month. I didn't answer. Sometimes I looked at the phone, watched it ring, and let it stop. Other times, I didn't even check. I told myself it was better this way. Cleaner, simpler. No arguments, no pressure, just distance. After a while, the call stopped. And strangely, that hurt more than I expected. But I didn't do anything about it, because pride is a quiet thing. It doesn't shout. It just sits inside you, convincing you to stay exactly where you are. Years passed. 1 year turned into 5. 5 turned into 10. And before I realized it, 15 years were gone. In that time, my life changed in many ways. I moved to a new city, changed jobs, met new people. From the outside, everything looked fine, stable, successful, but there was always something missing, a small, quiet space in my life that I never filled. I avoided talking about family. When people asked, I gave short answers. "It's complicated," I would say, and they would nod, not asking further, because everyone has something they don't want to explain. But late at night, when everything was quiet, sometimes I would think about that day, that last conversation, those last words. "You'll understand one day." I used to hate that sentence, but over time, I started to wonder, what if he was right? Still, I never called, not once, because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. What do you say after 15 years? Where do you even begin? So I did nothing. I kept living my life, day after day, year after year, until one night. Everything changed. It was late, almost midnight. My phone rang, an unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something made me pick up. And that single decision was about to change everything. I hesitated for a second before answering. Unknown numbers at midnight usually meant one thing: bad news. Still, I picked up. "Hello," I said, my voice lower than usual. There was a brief silence on the other end, then a voice I didn't recognize. "Is this Mr. Nam?" "Yes," I replied slowly. "This is the hospital," the voice continued. "We're calling regarding your father." My chest tightened. For a moment, I didn't breathe. "My father?" I repeated. Even saying the word felt unfamiliar. "Yes," she said gently. "He was admitted earlier today." Admitted. The word echoed in my mind, but it didn't fully make sense yet. "What happened?" I asked. Another small pause. "He's very weak," she said. "And he asked us to contact you." I sat down without realizing it. The room suddenly felt smaller. "I think you should come," she added softly. That sentence, it carried more weight than anything else. "I think you should come." "Is it serious?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. There was no direct reply, just a quiet yes. The call ended shortly after, but I didn't move. I just sat there, holding my phone, staring at nothing. For 15 years, There had been silence. No calls, no messages, no connection. And now, suddenly, everything was back. All at once. Memories I hadn't touched in years started rising to the surface. His voice, his face, the way he used to sit quietly at the table. The last time I saw him. The last words we said. "You'll understand one day." I stood up and walked to the window. The city was quiet, lights still on in distant buildings. People still awake somewhere. Life moving forward like always. But inside me, everything felt frozen. I looked at my reflection in the glass. Older, different. But in that moment, I felt like the same person who had walked out of that house 15 years ago. Angry, proud, certain. Except now, I wasn't so sure anymore. I grabbed my keys, then stopped. My hand stayed on the door handle. A simple action. Open the door, leave, go to the hospital. That's all it would take. So why did it feel so difficult? Because going there meant more than just visiting. It meant facing everything I had avoided. The silence, the distance, the years that couldn't be taken back. What would I say when I saw him? Would he even want to see me? Or was I just someone he remembered? Too late. I stepped back from the door. Then forward again. My thoughts kept pulling me in opposite directions. Part of me wanted to stay, to pretend I never answered that call, to keep my life unchanged, safe. But another part, quieter, stronger, was asking a different question. If not now, then when? I closed my eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and finally, I opened the door. The hallway outside was silent. Every step I took felt heavier than the last, as if I wasn't just walking toward a hospital, but towards something I had been running from for 15 years. And deep down, I knew. By the time I arrived, nothing would ever be the same again. The hospital was quieter than I expected. It was past midnight, but the lights were still on. White walls, long hallways, soft footsteps echoing somewhere far away. I walked slowly, following the directions the nurse had given me over the phone. Each step felt unfamiliar, not because I didn't know the place, but because I didn't know what I was about to face. Room 312. I stopped in front of the door. My hand hovered in the air just inches away from the handle. For 15 years, I had imagined this moment in different ways. Sometimes I thought I would come back successful, confident, ready to prove something. Other times I imagined an apology, simple, honest. But now, standing here, I didn't feel prepared for any of it. Because real life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just happens. I slowly pushed the door open. The room was dim. A soft light near the bed, the quiet sound of a machine. And there he was, my father. For a second, I didn't recognize him. He looked smaller, weaker. As if time had taken something from him, piece by piece. His hair was thinner, his face more tired, but it was still him. I stepped inside, closing the door gently behind me. He didn't notice me at first. His eyes were closed, his breathing was slow, careful. I stood there, not knowing what to do. 15 years. And this was how we met again. No words, no preparation, just silence. I took a few steps closer. Each one felt heavier than the last. And then he moved, just slightly. His eyes opened, slowly. And for a brief moment, he looked confused, as if he wasn't sure what he was seeing. Then his eyes settled on me, and everything changed. I saw it immediately. Recognition, not surprise, not anger, just recognition, like he had been expecting this, like he had been waiting. "Dad," I said. The word felt strange, unfamiliar, but also right. He didn't respond right away. He just looked at me, really looked at me, as if trying to memorize my face, as if making sure I was real. "You came," he whispered. His voice was weak, but clear. I nodded. I started, but the words didn't come. Everything I had thought about saying, all the explanations, all the reasons, all the years in between, they disappeared, because none of them felt important anymore. "I'm here," I said instead. It was the only thing I could say, the only thing that mattered. He gave a small nod, then closed his eyes again for a moment, like even that short conversation had taken energy from him. I pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat down. Not too close, not too far, just there. We stayed like that in silence. Minutes passed, or maybe longer. Time felt different in that room, slower, heavier. After a while, he opened his eyes again. "I wasn't sure you would come," he said softly. I swallowed. "I almost didn't," I admitted. The truth, simple, honest. He nodded again. No judgment, no disappointment, just understanding. And somehow, that made everything harder, because I realized something in that moment. For 15 years, I had been holding on to anger, pride, distance. But him? He had just been waiting, quietly, patiently, without knowing if I would ever come back. "I'm sorry," I said suddenly. The words came out before I could stop them. I should have. I paused. Should have called. Should have visited. Should have tried. But I didn't finish the sentence, because we both already knew. He looked at me for a long moment. Then, very gently, he shook his head. "It's okay," he said. Two simple words. But they carried something I didn't expect. Not forgiveness. Something deeper. Something that had never left. Love. And in that quiet hospital room, after 15 years of silence, I realized something I had been avoiding for too long. Some distances are not created by time, they are created by the words we never say. The room grew quieter after that. Not because there was nothing left to say, but because we didn't know where to begin. 15 years is a long time. Too long to fit into a single conversation, too heavy to explain in just a few words. So we sat there, side by side, letting the silence speak first. "I thought about calling you many times," my father said after a while. His voice was still weak, but steadier now. I looked at him. "Why didn't you?" I asked. It wasn't an accusation, just a question I had carried for years. He smiled faintly. "I did," he said. "At the beginning?" I felt something tighten in my chest. "I know," I replied quietly. "I called every week," he continued, "then every month." He paused, catching his breath. "When you didn't answer, I thought maybe you needed time." Time. I almost laughed, because I had taken 15 years. "And after a while," he added, "I didn't want to disturb your life." Disturb. That word stayed with me. All this time, I thought I was protecting myself from him. But he had been protecting me too, in his own way. "I wasn't ready," I said. It felt like the truth. But also, not enough. He nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. No questions, no blame, just understanding. And again, that made it harder, because it would have been easier if he were angry, easier if he blamed me, easier if he said something that allowed me to defend myself. But he didn't. He just accepted everything. "I kept your room the same," he said suddenly. I looked up. "What do you mean?" "Your room," he repeated softly. "At home." My chest tightened again. "I didn't change it," he said. "Not much." I didn't know what to say. 15 years, and somewhere in that house I had walked away from, a part of me was still there, waiting. "I thought," he continued slowly, "if you ever came back, you might want things to feel familiar." That was it. That was the moment. The moment something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. Like a wall that had been standing for too long, finally giving up. "I didn't think you cared," I admitted. The words came out before I could stop them. He looked at me, surprised. "Of course I cared," he said. It sounded so simple, so obvious. But for years, I had believed the opposite, because when people don't say what they feel, we start creating our own versions of the truth. And sometimes, we get it completely wrong. "I thought you wanted to control my life," I added. "I did," he said. I blinked. He smiled slightly. "I was afraid," he explained. "Afraid you would make mistakes. Afraid you would struggle." He took a slow breath. "I didn't know how to show it properly." That sentence stayed in the air between us, not an excuse, just honesty. And for the first time, I saw something clearly. Not the father I argued with, not the man I walked away from, but a person, someone who tried, someone who made mistakes, someone who loved in ways I didn't understand. I wasted so much time, I whispered. He shook his head again. No, he said gently. You lived your life, but without you, I replied. There was a long pause. Then he said something I didn't expect. I was always there, he said. I looked at him, confused. In my own way, he added. I didn't fully understand what he meant, but I felt it. And somehow, that was enough. Because in that quiet hospital room, we weren't trying to fix the past anymore. We were just trying to not lose what little time we had left. I stayed at the hospital that night, and the night after that, time didn't feel the same anymore. It wasn't measured in days or years, but in moments. Small conversations, quiet glances, simple words that somehow meant more than everything we had said in the past. We didn't talk about everything. We didn't go back and explain every mistake, every misunderstanding, every year we lost, because we both knew there wasn't enough time for that. So instead, we talked about simple things. The weather, the city, old memories that still made us smile. Sometimes we didn't talk at all. And strangely, that silence didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. It felt peaceful, like we had finally stopped fighting something that was never meant to be fought. One evening, as the light outside the window slowly faded, my father looked at me and said, I'm glad you came. I nodded, trying to hold my voice steady. Me too, he smiled. A small, tired smile, but real. I used to think about what I would say if I saw you again, he continued. I leaned a little closer. What would you say? I asked. He looked at me for a long moment, then said quietly, I would say, I'm sorry. I felt my throat tighten. For what? I asked. For not understanding you better, he replied. For trying to decide your life for you. I shook my head immediately. No, I should be the one saying that, I said. But he didn't argue. He just looked at me. And in that moment, we both understood something important. This wasn't about who was right or who was wrong. It was about what we almost lost and what we still had. A few days later, his condition became worse. The doctors spoke more softly, moved more carefully, and even without saying it directly, I knew. The time we had left was running out. On the last night, I sat beside him, holding his hand. His grip was weaker now, but still there. I'm here, I said, just like I had on the first night. He opened his eyes slowly, looked at me, and nodded. No long speech, no dramatic goodbye, just that simple understanding between us. Then quietly, he closed his eyes, and this time, he didn't open them again. The room was silent, but inside me, something had changed, not broken, not empty, but softer, lighter, because even though I had lost 15 years, I didn't lose everything. I came back, maybe late, but not too late. And sometimes, that is enough. If you're listening to this right now, and there's someone you haven't spoken to in a long time, someone you keep thinking about, but never call. Maybe this is your moment, not tomorrow, not someday, now, because time doesn't wait, and silence can last longer than we expect. If this story touched you even a little, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so more people can be reminded to say the words that truly matter before it's too late.